Hello, and welcome to you joining us today. This is Fall in Love with the New Yammer, and we're so happy to have you today. This is our largest ever event. Over 400 of you have joined us today, and that's an absolutely amazing thing. We normally host these events in London, Manchester, Chicago, but obviously, due to where we are, we're doing it today online. So welcome to my living room. Welcome in. I'm not sure I could fit 400 of you in here, but it's great to have you online today. My name's David Callahan. I work at WM Reply, and I'll be hosting this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are. So just to give you a little bit of an introduction about who we are at WM Reply, let me just take you through a couple of slides, and then can't wait to introduce you to our speakers. They're absolutely fantastic. The content's great. So WM Reply, who are we? 175 specialists, 6 offices around the world. Over 850,000 people onboarded to Yammer. That's absolutely amazing. And again, over 812 projects successfully delivered with 0 salespeople. We're very proud of our people, and I'm very proud to be part of this company. In terms of who we are and how we work with Microsoft, we see Sharepoint, Teams, and Yammer as those wonderful tools that you get to use as part of the modern workplace. We're one of 3 Yammer adoption specialists in Europe, Teams champions, a Gold Microsoft partner, and I'm very proud to help lead a ACM team that is ProSci certified. So without further ado, because that's the boring bit out of the way, we want to then go on to who are some of our clients. We're very happy to have a few of our clients here today on this call. They're going to be talking to you about what we've been doing and what they've been up to, and we can't wait to share their stories, their experiences, and how they can help you. Tiny bit of housekeeping just before I have the honor of introducing some of our speakers and some of our panelists. If you have a question, please go into the right hand side of your screen and ask away. Just let us know who you are, where you're joining from, what your question is, and if in particular it's for someone. So without further ado, why don't you just go in and say where you're actually joining from today? Obviously, most of you will be working from home, but where in the world are you joining us? So without further ado, on to our lovely speakers. So going global now, let's meet them. They're going to give you a quick wave, and we'll be coming back to them for the presentations and panel later on. So over to Murali first, over in the United States. He's going to give us a quick wave just to say hello. Murali joins us from Microsoft and will be taking us through the new Yammer. He is joined by his colleague Steve, who's also on the call from Microsoft, again from the US, and he's going to give us a quick wave. Thanks very much, Steve. Rebecca joins us from the co-op. She'll be having some really useful insights all about how to get Yammer launched. Give us a wave, Rebecca. And now over to Helena, who's from Selfridges. Again, some really interesting insights that she'll be sharing. Thanks very much, Helena, for giving us a quick wave. We're also joined by 2 great panelists today. So we've got David from Network Rail, who will be, again, help answering your questions, helping talking about those experiences. And finally, but by no means least, Jackie from WM Reply, who has helped many organizations successfully adopt and use Yammer. So without further ado, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be handing over to Microsoft in order to let them talk you through the new Yammer. Over to you, Murali.
Thank you very much, David. And it's just an honor to talk to all of you here today. We wish we could do this under different circumstances, maybe be live with you in many of the cities Dave mentioned, but this is actually the next best thing. And in fact, we could do this at your time, hopefully from your living rooms. We're here to talk more about the new Yammer. We've christened this year, by the way, the Year of Yammer. So we've been working hard over the last 18 months to bring a ton of innovation to our customers, both current customers and potential customers. And so we want to give you a whirlwind tour of those features and capabilities, especially in a time like this, and how it can help you and your organizations. So if you go to the next slide, what I want to do is actually show you just one slide, and we're going to jump into a demo. The slide effectively tells you what Yammer is all about. So if you read those 3 words at the top, Yammer is going to be about building community, about generating and sharing knowledge, about finding a place for leaders to engage with people within their organizations. It's that simple, but it's that critical to your organization. We all know that employees that are engaged deliver capabilities to their organizations at unprecedented rates. And so Yammer is a critical tool to make all of that happen. Now, some things have changed in Yammer over the years. Yammer used to be a tool about building teams and groups. We've gone away from that nomenclature because we have a great other tool called Teams that does it even better than Yammer did in the past. But Yammer has a set of superpowers that makes these three use cases shine around community, knowledge, and engagement. And those superpowers are around this concept we call long, open, inclusive, and discoverable conversations. These conversations take time, take time to come to a crescendo. They might be valid even 6 months from now, a year from now. These conversations can be retrieved and engaged with at the pace an employee wants and not sort of pulled in instantly. So there's a lot of value in these open, discoverable conversations that we've seen from customers like you in the past that leads us to the fact that these superpowers are critical in building community, in sharing knowledge, and in delivering engagement. The other thing that's changed with Yammer over the years is in the past, Yammer was this destination. You had to go to Yammer to experience its superpowers. And by the way, that will continue. We just shipped our new mobile application for the new Yammer, and that should be available to everybody as we speak. And clearly the web destination, the desktop destination will continue to roll out as well, as we'll talk to you here in a second. But we also want to bring those superpowers to the rest of the Microsoft application properties, like Teams. We'll show you that today. Like Outlook, we feel the conjunction of Outlook and Yammer is a unique one, which allows for corporate communicators to get the best out of any content that they want to publish to the rest of the company. And of course, with Sharepoint, that we've had a relationship with before, but we're now going to bring that to life. So Yammer is not only going to be this destination, it's going to bring its superpowers to the rest of the Office suite. And it's going to do so, perhaps also differently from the past, with high sense of security, with high investments in privacy and compliance. In the past, it was a separate application, and you had to do special things for it to be compliant. But now it's part of the suite, and anything that you do in the suite for it to be, all of the applications to be compliant and private and secure, you will avail of in Yammer as well. So with that backdrop, let me repeat, Yammer is going to be about communities. It's about generating and sharing knowledge, and it's about leaders engaging with their people in two-way dialogue. What better can I do than just sort of ask my colleague, Steve Wynn, to come in and help us bring all of these concepts to life. So over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Murali, and thank you to all of us, or thank you to everyone that is joining today. I'm really excited to share with you the progress that we've made with the new Yammer and how it really supports the mission that Murali described earlier. So I'd like to take you through some of the updates that we're making to the new Yammer. One of the things that we're really focused on overall, as Murali mentioned, is really making Yammer feel like an integrated part of the Microsoft 365 suite. That's the investment that you've made in us in Microsoft. So a couple of things that we've done. The Yammer search bar used to exist here on the left side of the page. Well, now we've moved it up into the Office suite header, which is the same place that you experience search in other applications like Outlook, like Teams, like SharePoint. We've also brought the notifications that used to exist on the page itself into the suite header. Again, a very common, consistent design pattern that you see in other parts of Office as well. So we really want Yammer to feel like an integrated part of the suite, and you'll continue to see other elements of our design inherit those similar concepts from Office 365. A big part of the way that your employees interact with Yammer is to create, like Murali said, that employee engagement, that deep sense of connection to your company. So going forward, you'll have the ability to brand your Yammer homepage. So you can put your company brand directly on the homepage. We think that this creates a great sense of connection to your company and your culture and your brand by just having the simple gesture of having your company logo here. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll notice that we've also renamed Yammer groups. We're going forward, we'll rename these to be called Yammer Communities. We really want to make sure we're connected to our strategy, but also making sure that your employees have a very clear distinction for the value that Yammer brings. And we believe that the word communities helps to convey a much deeper sense of connection to the broader organization that your employees want and what your employees need. We also are introducing a way for you to favorite those communities so you can have quick access to those. So you see those with hearts here. I can quickly access some of these communities. I'm going to dig into the community in just a bit as we go forward here. But we've also made a big effort to really clean up the overall interface, make it much more simple and easy to use. The feed experience, as you see here, we have a single consolidated feed that shows communities that you follow, people that you follow, but also, as Murali was pointing out, a big point of emphasis for us is on discovery. We want to bring in serendipity and for you to see conversations from maybe public groups that you're not a part of. So you will see an element of discovery injected into our feed based on our updated machine learning algorithm. And we'll continue to update the feed experience as we go along. But as I scroll through here, hopefully you see that the conversations are much cleaner to distinguish between. We have this card view that creates a nice visual separation between where threads start and where they end. Of course, when people upload images, we have this nice image collage that hopefully invites people to participate and see those images in a much more engaging way. Nice link previews, a new rendering for things like question and answer. We've had question and answer for close to a year now, but we also want to make sure that when people are asking questions that those stand out a bit more in the feed. You may have seen at the top a new treatment for things like praise as well. Polls we've applied a new treatment to. So some of these unique post types like polls and praise and questions, we've applied a new treatment for so that they draw more engagement from your employees. We've also integrated with the Office 365 people card. So currently you have a Yammer profile and you also have an Office 365 profile. In the very near future, we'll be consolidating the experience so that you only have to worry about one profile. So we'll consolidate on the one profile that exists across Office 365. And we've heard from many of you that this is of value to you and your employees. Don't have to worry about multiple profiles. So here I can see the organization that Johanna belongs to straight from the people card here in Office 365. I'm going to flip into one of the communities here and talk about some of the updates that we've made here. I'm sure many of you are owners of communities, maybe you're a community manager within your organization. And we've done a couple of things to help improve the way that you're able to manage and engage your communities. I moved to this leadership connection community. A big emphasis for us is around engaging leaders and engaging leaders with employees and back and forth conversation. We see this a lot with our customers these days. So this example is just one where you might have leaders within a community being able to answer questions from employees, but also seeing what's top of mind amongst the employee base. Very important, especially in the times that we're in today, for employees to have a much broader sense of connection across the organization. But one thing that you might notice here is we're including an ability here for you to have this nice cover photo, a nice vibrant way for you to have a visually engaging element to your community. You could perhaps use it as a billboard of sorts to communicate about a campaign or an event that might be coming up. We've also made some improvements to what we call the publishing experience here. So of course, you've always had the ability to do things like rich text. You can do a question, a poll, a praise, just as you normally would. But another unique capability here is that the announcement capability now extends to other post types. So if I want to do a poll and I want to make that into an announcement so that everybody in the community has visibility to that poll and hopefully answers that poll, now I can make an announcement out of a poll, a praise, or even a question as well. We've also integrated the most recently used list from across Office into the file picker experience. So if you've been just working on a PowerPoint presentation that you also want to be able to share with the community, you don't have to sift through all your SharePoint document libraries or look for it in your OneDrive, but it's right there and immediately accessible to you because you've just accessed it or just used it. We've also improved the GIF selector. Who doesn't love a great, well-positioned GIF, right? But we've also done some improvements to enlarge it a little bit, so you have a little bit greater confidence in what the sentiment that GIF is going to convey when you post it. So a couple of updates that we've made to the publisher experience. Additionally, from a community owner standpoint, we've heard from a lot of you the desire to be able to pin a conversation to the top of a community. So here you see this particular message has been pinned. So now when people come to this community, the first thing that they'll see is this pinned conversation. So maybe you've made some sort of announcement, or you are setting some rules of engagement for the community and you want to pin that to the top of the feed. You'll be able to do that here and have confidence that people will see that straight away at the top of the community feed. And here you see where that option is. I can, of course, in this case, unpin it, or if it was a different message, I could pin it. I also have the ability to close conversations as an administrator. So in this case, we've seen that this post has an answer already marked for it, and we don't perhaps need any more answers submitted for this. So I can close the conversation as an administrator. So what that does is it removes the reply bar, so no one can reply to that post any longer. If at some point I feel like I need to change the answer or update the thread in some way, I can reopen it at a future time if I need to be able to do that as well. Lastly, I'll move into the sales best practice community and just show you again some of the updates that we've made to the different post types within Yammer. So here you see an example of a praise and a question that you saw the question previously, and the poll as well. So I just want to emphasize that we've done some things to make sure that those stand out a bit more in the feed. Murali, do you have anything that you'd like to add here?
Well, one of the design principles for us was to make this clean, simple, and beautiful. So in the past, Yammer had a lot of content to throw at you, and it felt a little cluttered. So you'd see that design principle shines through completely here. The other thing that we've done is to make sure that these experiences can be easily brought to other surfaces, as Steve will show you here in a second. The third concept is, in the past, Yammer has spent a lot of time working to satisfying its end users. But it's critical for us to find a way in which we can now appeal to our community administrators, to folks in corporate communications and those in HR. So a few more features to help shepherd the community to building value is something that we have built into this product as well, some of which Steve told you. And I told you, I'm going to say that it's really scratching the surface. We're going to keep rapidly adding more to these capabilities as we go forward.
Great. And as Murali alluded to earlier, we've been making a lot of updates to our mobile app, and I'd like to just walk you through and just show you some of the updates that we've made and will continue to make in the mobile app. This should be available to all of you today. So a lot of the updated designs that I showed you on the web, we've also applied to the mobile experience as well. So you see here's the feed on the mobile app, the same card design. You know, really our goal here between web and mobile is to give you a very consistent experience. So as you're moving between web and you're using the mobile apps, we want you to have a very consistent experience between those. If I go to a community here and I go back to that leadership connection community, again, you see that nice cover photo at the top of the community here. In fact, currently on the mobile app, if you're an administrator of a community, you can change that cover photo already on the mobile app. So that's available to you to do that from the mobile device today. You'll also notice that we have some filters. I didn't talk about the filters on the web, but you can filter and just see the new conversations or all the conversations here in the app. But the same renderings for those questions and answers and polls and praise, you'll also see reflected here in the mobile app. I'm going to quickly go into
one of the recommendations I have for folks is, in case you haven't upgraded your app to the latest version, please do so. We've shipped this worldwide, both on iOS and Android. You should be able to see now, if you upgrade your app, Yammer app on your device, all of these new features.
Yep. I'm going to click up in the upper right corner here to the publisher. And this is the place where you create your message, just to show you the experience. It's very similar to what you saw on the web. Here you see I have the ability to quickly create my poll or praise, or if I'm an administrator, I can do my announcement from here as well. You're now also one click into being able to record a video as well. So here I can record a video. I have some new abilities to be able to add some filters here if I want to make it fancy black and white. I can also add some emojis to this. So if I want to lighten the mood a little bit here, I can add an emoji. I have some ability to do some annotations if I need to. But I'm going to record a couple seconds of video here. So I can record the video. I can pause it. Maybe I want to add a different clip. I want to change my angle a little bit. So I can change my angle, record a few more seconds. When I'm happy with it, I can go to the next screen here, and it gives me some ability to do some lightweight video editing. So if I needed to trim something out at the beginning or the end, I have that capability as well. And then, of course, I can post this message, and we see a lot of different scenarios, and we've heard from our customers some different scenarios in which this will be valuable for them. Maybe you have a lot of first-line workers. We'll hear from some of our customers today that have a large number of first-line workers where they want to be able to capture some experience that's happening within the store or a retail location, or maybe they want to record a safety video quickly. You notice we've optimized this for it's only a 3-minute video, so we want to optimize it for quick, short videos. Maybe your leaders want to post a quick top of mind at the beginning of the week and share an update about what's upcoming, or maybe what happened this last week from a leadership perspective. So we see lots of different scenarios in which our customers can take advantage of this. You see, it didn't take long for this particular video to upload. We've done a lot of work in the mobile on the mobile app to really optimize the upload experience as well. So I can say, here's my update for the week, and that would get posted to the Leadership Connection community. So we've walked through some of the updates that we're making to web, some of the updates that we have already made to mobile as well. I'm going to switch back now and talk about the next pillar for us, which is the integration. We, again, are very bullish on making sure that you are able to take advantage of your investment in Microsoft 365 and bringing Yammer to those other surfaces. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about Sharepoint. Here we have a Sharepoint communication site, and you can see, one of the strengths that Sharepoint has always had is this ability to create rich news, in this case in the form of blog posts and articles, being able to share and collaborate on documents as well. Well, we want to bring the power of conversation and make the communication site, the sales best practice site, much more dynamic as well. Of course, you have sales folks within your organizations perhaps that want to share their best practices, or in this case, they want to recognize somebody. Maybe they have questions that they have about various products that they're selling. So what we've done here is we've brought the feed from that sales best practice community that we saw on Yammer onto the sales best practice page here through the updated Yammer web part. So you see our updated Yammer web part now inherits the new design from Yammer. We think that it feels much more native to the page. You notice when I like a message here, I can like the message, and you see we inherit this sort of greenish color, this teal color from the page. So again, making a more consistent feel and belonging to the Sharepoint page. I can do all the things from a posting standpoint that I can do on from Yammer itself, directly here from the web part. So if I want to praise or do a question, I can do that directly here from the web part. So I can remain sort of in the context of the sales best practice site without having to go to Yammer if I didn't choose to. Switching over to Teams, we know many of you are rolling out Teams in a big way, and we love that. We love that people are embracing the ways that Teams can help connect people, especially in the times that we're in today, connect people much more closely and effectively. We also know that people want to be able to connect broadly across their organization in the ways that Yammer provides. So one of the things that we'll be introducing very soon is the ability for you as an organization to pin Yammer on the left rail of Teams. So you see here, we have the Yammer logo, and we've labeled it as Communities here. And so when I go to this Communities tab, I actually get the same experience that you saw that I was walking through with regards to this new Yammer experience, and being able to see your feed right here from within Teams. I get access to all my communities here. All my favorite communities are also brought through to this experience. So I can interact, I can participate in these communities inside of the window frame Microsoft Teams. So we hope that this will be of great value for you, especially those that are really embracing Teams and starting to use Teams more and more as sort of your hub for teamwork. Lastly, Outlook. We also know that there are many within your organizations that are still very heavy email users, and we want to make sure that we create a very compelling experience for them as well. So one of the things that we've really improved on is the Yammer email notification experience. In the past, when you got a Yammer email notification, you got a little summary and you had to click on a link and it brought you out to Yammer. Well, we wanted to, again, help keep you in the context of the work that you're doing. So in this case, if I'm a person that really wants to spend more of my day in email, then I can do that. What we've done here is we've brought, here's an announcement that came through from that Leadership Connection community. We brought the entire thread of that Yammer message into the body of the email message itself. So you see you have the nice images here in the body of the email. I can expand this out and I can see all the comments that have been made here. I see this YouTube video. I can actually play that here right in line if I needed to. So I can do a lot of the things. I can like a message here. I can post a comment here. Many of the things that I could do in Yammer, I can do straight away here within the body of this email. Maybe you've communicated about something on Microsoft Stream and you've embedded that into a Yammer message. Well, you can send that out and have that play in line in the body of the email. Things like polls also come to life within Outlook as well. So now I can vote directly to this poll right here from within Yammer. So many of your leaders, we think, still spend a lot of their time in email. And if we can bring Yammer to them in very lightweight ways, we can really, we think, boost their adoption and their usage and activity that occurs within your Yammer network. So hopefully this has served as a good overview of some of the things that we're working on. In fact, I should say that this Outlook integration that you see here, this on Outlook on the web, is currently available to all of your employees and all of our users. Have access to this capability within Outlook on the web. We are actively working on also bringing this to both the desktop and mobile experiences, and you'll see that later on this year. So hopefully that was a helpful overview for you all. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we'll get to those. I think I'll turn it back over to David.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks, gents, for that very interesting demo. It's great to see all the stuff that's coming. I personally can't wait for the pinning in Teams to come. It's a question that I get asked quite a lot. So yeah, people have already been asking questions, which is fantastic. First of all, from Natalie, have there been any analytics improved for the new Yammer?
Let me take that. This is Murali again. Thank you for the question. Right at this point, we are going to, of course, surface group insights that we've had before within Yammer, in the new Yammer as well. We're now working towards adding some insights into questions and answers, unanswered questions within the context of the community. And that's probably something that we will be working on and shipping in the next quarter or two. Beyond that, we're thinking about where do we take our analytics and insights capability. We haven't got a real timeline on some of the things that we've been thinking about, so I'll reserve that till I have some more surety and clarity. But in the meantime, you know, not only at this event, but others outside, we have some great partners that have an amazing set of tools that allow you to look deeply into your Yammer network and be able to tell how well it's functioning and which are the hotspots and which are the more dormant ones that you can revive again. Some of them may speak later, but I'd like to suggest that you take a look at some of our partners to augment the insights capabilities that we have within Yammer. This is an area of investment for us. We want to go deeper, but we had to do all of this heavy lifting with the new Yammer, the new mobile apps, and all these integrations so that now we can find a way of investing in insights and reporting.
Absolutely, great. Thank you for that. A question now more about the functionality side of the new Yammer. So a question from David saying, many of our colleagues don't realize that they should post using the Q&A question type. Is it possible to have a retrospective convert to post to change that to a Q&A in the new Yammer?
Yeah, I can maybe take that, Murali.
Yep.
So yes, we often have seen that, and a couple of things that we're doing to improve that. Number one, hopefully you saw from the new Yammer, by making the question a bit more apparent within the feed, that encourages people to know that the capability exists to ask the question post type. So that's one thing. But we are also, yes, looking at the capability for people to retroactively convert a post into a question. So that is something that the team is working on. We're also looking at, lots of communities exist as sort of support communities where the bulk of the activity is asking questions. So we are also working on the capability for certain community, for the admin to be able to set the community as the default question post type. So the default post type would be a question. Of course, you could change that if you needed. The user could change that if they needed to, but it could default to the question, so that's the easier of the options.
Okay, great. That's really good to hear that sort of functionality is, being looked at and investigated. Question from Christine now. Is something changing with Yammer notifications? Our Yammer users are reporting that they're no longer getting the email notifications. They're going to junk mail, etc. Has something changed in that functionality recently?
I don't believe anything has changed. So we will go verify with our teams to try to understand if we see something on our dashboards at the back end to see why exactly. But Christina, if you could just send us through the WM reply folks or directly just a quick ping about which company, network, etc., or post it here in the questions. We'll take a look and see what's going on there. No, nothing has fundamentally changed.
It also might be useful just for tracking purposes to send a support ticket in so our team can also investigate it. But yeah, we can certainly take a look. But yeah, as Murali said, nothing that we're aware of.
Sometimes what happens is companies change their junk and spam filter profiles, and certain things change there, and then obviously that could have this sort of negative effect. But we'll help you figure this out through a support ticket.
Excellent. Loving the sense of community coming through this webinar already. That's exactly what we want to see. A question from Will Sharp now, saying that they're really keen on the new Yammer in their workplace, but they're facing data challenges with our information security teams on the locations of the servers. So I guess essentially, will the new Yammer services be housed in either EU or UK at some point?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially with a largely EU audience here. I think Yammer services are available in the EU. If you've already had a Yammer network and they happen to have been in the US, then you have to go through a process of transitioning that network to the EU. There's some caveats and issues associated with that, but that can be done. So then going forward, all of your data is housed in the EU. We don't have any immediate plans for the UK specifically. Clearly with Brexit and things, those are things we'll have to relook at in the future. But you can choose between the US, storing your content in the US, where a bulk of our customers do so, or the EU. And if you want to move from the US to the EU, then there's a process associated with it.
Okay, brilliant. That's really useful to know that sort of stuff is being looked into. There's options around the roadmap, etc. And obviously UK might be on that for Yammer at some point.
Yeah, one plugin there, David, is WM Reply has done this many times, where they can help transition your data from the US if you want to continue the content that you already have in your US network to the EU. Because the transfer of data is not an automatic free option. We don't have a capability of doing that, but WM Reply are masters at making that happen.
Oh, I like that. Masters at making it happen. Might put that on a t-shirt. So is it possible that this question from Sarah, thanks Sarah, could you talk more about the new search that's being built into the new Yammer?
Yeah, I can take that, Murali, and feel free to chime in, but the search that you'll see in the new Yammer largely will be very similar from an interaction standpoint that we have in the current Yammer today. That said, we are putting a lot of investment into improving the search over the next couple of quarters, over the next the rest of this year. We will also be making some improvements to make the search function and feel like the rest of the search does across Office 365. So you'll see the sort of the people pickers and the being able to see communities show up in a very similar fashion that you see within Yammer. And also we want to be able to eventually bring in many more signals and results that exist from across Office 365 as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. So there's obviously more to come there as well. Just going through the questions now, just going to pick one out. So actually one from me just before we carry on. So do you think that, or would you expect there to be continued and stronger adoption of Yammer as it becomes part of that kind of interface with Teams? Is that going to be a big thing, a big push for people in terms of their adoption and use day to day?
We have no doubt that that's going to happen, especially because we put Yammer on this very clear trajectory of building community, sharing knowledge, and creating this two-way conversation with leadership. There is no other product in M365 that does it like Yammer. And to do that in the context of Teams or Outlook or SharePoint is even going to make it stronger. I can tell you this, that it's pretty unprecedented. I've been with Microsoft and with Yammer for 2.5 years. In the usage increase we've seen in the last 2 months because of the fact that the unique capabilities of Yammer make this sort of work from home situation so much more palatable for many companies has been remarkable. Our teams are working round the clock to just keep pace with what our customers are demanding for us. Live events, creating new communities. At Microsoft, we created a community around work from home, and that's got 1,000 people sharing a whole bunch of different things that tens of thousands of people are seeing. And just their specific work stations at home and how they're coping with this new reality. And this is not just now. I think we've just shipped our Outlook integration, and that's only on web. In the second quarter, late second quarter, you'd see this also being available for desktop and mobile. And then the Teams app that we're going to be shipping means that lots and lots of Teams users might pin communities within Teams, which then allows them to go to Yammer more readily. We feel that there's a lot of value we can bring to your end users, and this is just the tipping point for us.
And if I could just also add on, David, I know your question was specific around Teams, but because the Outlook integration is available to everyone today, we've actually, without sharing specific numbers, we've seen some pretty interesting growth as well from Outlook users as well. So we believe in our strategy of bringing Yammer to other surfaces will certainly pay off for people to get more value out of Yammer.
This one, Dave, I had one last point here. Sorry to belabor this, but this is so critical with the Outlook integration, and of course with Teams as well, is people live in the tools that they're most comfortable with. Leadership in our companies are probably all spending time in email. They're not spending time in Yammer or Teams. People who do the day-to-day work want to work closely together with Teams and have a constant sort of rapport with them. Are spending the time in Teams, and people like community administrators or people like in HR and those are finding time in or spending time in Yammer. If you can bring all of these things more closer together, then it feels more seamless. And we're super excited about the Outlook integration. There are people who have not used Yammer for a while are now starting to use Yammer because they see these notifications in rich form in Outlook.
Brilliant. That's really good to hear. And I think you're exactly right. It's about being where people are and making the tools part of their working day. I'm going to ask you one more question just before we move on to the next one. And please obviously feel free to keep those questions coming in. Both Murali and Steve will be on the panel after the lightning talks. But the last question I'm going to ask is from James. James asks, when are inline thumbnails coming to stream videos on mobile apps? At the moment, it's more engaging to post a YouTube video, which obviously avoids the pink thumbnail that you get.
Yeah, I can address this one. Yeah, definitely understand that piece of feedback, and it's something we continue to work with the stream team on. Without getting into too much detail, there's some authentication that we are working through with the stream team to help bring that thumbnail through. Definitely understand that that's visually an engaging thing that we need to sort out, but we are working on that.
This is an important area for us. Our tools must work together seamlessly, and we shouldn't be asking for authentication every time you sort of go from one to the other. That Stream team is actively looking through different options for this, and stay tuned. We will find a different and better experience for our users.
Excellent. That's really good to hear. I'd like to thank you guys again for obviously taking the time to take us through the demo, and thanks obviously for staying around for the post-lightning talk panel. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now hand us over to the wonderful Rebecca from Co-op. She has some really interesting and enlightening stories to take us through all about her experience of helping to support the rollout and engagement of Yammer. So over to you, Rebecca.
Hello everybody, I'm going to talk to you today about how I basically got Yammer over the line at the Co-op. So there may be some of you on the line that have already got Yammer, and apologies to you guys. This is probably more for those people who are perhaps thinking about Yammer as a solution for their business, and a little bit about how I went about doing it. So first things first, it's probably worth explaining who I am. So my name is Rebecca Sykes, and I am the Channel Strategy Manager at the Co-op in the Internal Communications team. So I look after all the different channels that we use to communicate with our colleagues, but trying to look into the future as to sort of what's coming down the line, what are the things, what are the new technologies that we can utilise to really reach out and speak to our colleagues. For those of you who aren't aware, the Co-op is one of the largest, in fact, cooperatives in the world, and I think the largest in the UK. And that means that we don't have shareholders, we have members. We are a mixture of different businesses. We've got our food business, who have supermarkets and grocery stores, and we also have a funeral care business, a legal services business, insurance, and Co-op energy as well. So we're a real mishmash of different businesses. We've got people who have access to computers, who sit at desks, right down to people who are serving customers on the front line, who are really, really difficult to kind of get hold of and to share communication with. So what was the situation when I kind of came on board? So the IT guys had identified a need to find a solution to reduce the amount of space we were taking up on servers. So they identified Office 365 as an opportunity for about 15,000 colleagues who had Co-op email addresses to be able to move that information into the cloud and therefore save some money. So they basically gave licenses to 15,000 people with a Co-op email address because they wanted to save that space. Then I came on board and thought, ooh, this is going to solve a problem that I've already got, which is how do we get two-way communication with our colleagues in a secure space where we're not sharing that information with third parties, competitors, journalists, and how do we actually extend that out then to beyond those 15,000 people to every single colleague at the Co-op. So first things first, I needed to find the problem that I'm trying to fix. And one of the most important things was making that a problem that the exec cared about, or even better, that they'd come up with. So there was a little bit of sort of scene setting, whispering in ears, kind of getting them on board with the idea. And eventually they came up with a problem statement, which was that they believed that there was an understanding, listening and conversation gap that existed between the top, middle and bottom of the organisation. So they were really bought into this idea that that problem absolutely needed fixing. The next step was to make sure that we set expectations. So that it was going to be a big job to unlock this. This is the kind of thing that businesses all over the world are trying to do day in, day out. How do we reach our frontline colleagues? And that's going to take some money and some resources and some time. And it's not just about communications. Those of you who are on the line who are in the communications teams for your businesses will absolutely empathise with this. Often it's comms need to fix this, or comms aren't working, when in fact actually it's about the infrastructure and the platforms that we have that allow us to reach those colleagues effectively. And anything that we did do needed energy to drive it forward, and also to be something that was completely sustainable. So next, I dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, because any of you who work in a large organisation will absolutely know that everybody has an opinion. everybody's got a vested interest in a particular channel, that everybody's trying to save money, everybody's trying to find the slickest and easiest solution. So what I had to do was do tons of user needs research, tons of research into the platforms that we already had, but then surface that information back to colleagues in a really simple way, and those people making the decisions, so that they could absolutely see, and there was no doubt in anybody's minds that Yammer in this instance and Office 365 was absolutely the solution. As you can see here, this is how I did it on the screen, by just basically really simply ticks and crosses. And as you can see, Yammer's the only one with all the ticks. So for me, that was a real proof point that Yammer was the right solution. So once I'd done that, it came to the money. And what is really difficult at the co-op, and again, every business will be exactly the same, is you need the business case to prove that something is worth it, that it's either going to make the business money or save the business money. The difficulty with something like Yammer is it's an enabler. It's in and of itself is not going to make or save you money. It's going to facilitate making and saving money. So rather than relying on saying I'm going to save the business X amount of hours every year, I wanted to tell a story and bring it to life for our exec and our colleagues that were making the decisions. So I did a really simple sum. I took the license amount per colleague and illustrated how, by having this platform, it would enable and unlock the ability for that colleague to do their job better. So for example, this is a sort of example. This colleague, Joan, for want of a better name, doesn't understand the why, so it doesn't change what she does. Yammer would allow us to tell her the why, but at the moment, without Yammer, she doesn't, and that costs us £44 a year. Already, that's paid for her license. She can't talk to customers and members about funeral plans because she is completely cut off from the funeral care business. This is a lady that works in food and has no way to connect in with other business areas. Yammer would let her do that. And that's because she's unable to speak to a customer about that, that loses as a sale of a funeral care plan, just one. And all these numbers, by the way, are super conservative. And basically by pulling that together, I helped to show to the exec that in fact it was worth it. And whilst the overarching number felt quite large, because we've got around 70,000 colleagues at the co-op, 50,000 of which would have been included in this business case plan, so it all quite quickly adds up. But it quite quickly proved that actually, don't think about the big number, think about how those little elements that Yammer unlocks allow you to save and make money at the co-op. But then the next step was to get the green light. So I was a little bit cheeky and a little bit daring actually as well. So I got a room full of colleagues, a real cross-section of colleagues from all across the business, and also got the exec in the room, the people who were going to make the decision. And slightly flying by the seat of my pants, I'll be honest, because it had to be honest and truthful, I ran a session, a big hackathon with these people, and basically took them through and almost did like a user needs research session with the exec in the room. And resoundingly, they came back and agreed that in fact Yammer and something similar was absolutely what they needed and what they'd been crying out for. There was one really tense moment where a woman said, well, I used to have Yammer at my old company, and then paused for what felt like a very long time. And we were all sort of, what's she going to say? It was terrible, it was horrible. And she then, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I was like, thank God for that. And that was such a powerful session because it meant that Steve Morales, our CEO, who was in the room, was really enthused and engaged and could absolutely link the original problem statement with what his colleagues were telling that they needed, and then with Yammer. And then the trick was booking in a session with Steve right after that meeting, so he couldn't walk away and forget about it, and basically pinning him down on the budget. So we got the say-so from Steve, which then obviously drives say-so from everybody else, to say yes, that this investment was definitely worthwhile for the co-op. And then we moved on to, so that's, you'd think that should be enough, but actually we wanted to prove it. We didn't want people to rest on their laurels, to sleep on it, to come back to it later and think, actually, in the light of other things that have come onto the requirements for the budget, actually, I don't want to spend money on that anymore. So we did a fantastic piece, proof of concept work with some of our stores. And this is just a small smattering of the feedback that we got from them. And as you can see, in every instance, I'm happy to work for the co-op. The net promoter score increased by 27 points. Across the board, for the really key things that drive how our colleagues see our business, Yammer had made a massive impact. And that's the kind of information, the kind of statistics that exec just can't ignore. And then finally, annoy the hell out of them. Because the thing is, everybody has got so much on the plate. Everybody has so many pulls on their budget, so many pulls on their times. And actually, it was just about getting in and amongst them, meeting them, talking to them, badgering them, and just basically pushing it over the line. And I can then confirm that on the 28th of December last year, it was agreed on the 5-year budget, and we're going to be rolling it out this year. So that will mean that every single person at the co-op will have Yammer and therefore an Office 365 license, which then opens it up for me to be able to create a Sharepoint hub, to get them on Teams, to open up all those other possibilities. But by staying narrow and focused on Yammer, I was able to get that signed off. So wish me luck. But there is one final thing that's probably worth mentioning, and it's sort of the elephant in the room. Obviously, at the moment, it's a really horrific and terrible situation, not one that we would have wished on anybody. But when it comes to something like Yammer, to Office 365, to that those platforms that allow the connectivity between colleagues, it is an opportunity, because it's a chance for your exec and for the people who make the decisions in your business to kind of really see the possibilities and the need that absolutely exists for this kind of platforms. So now is the time, now is the chance for you to get out there and kind of talk to your exec to kind of help bring to life why something like Yammer is so important. And by the end of this, I know that every single person at the co-op will be absolutely bought in to the Office 365 suite. So that's it from me.
Excellent, Rebecca, thank you so much for that. That was so interesting to hear. And I know that last time we spoke, you were actually talking about the fact you were marching the exec to Yammer to get them to sign up there and there. And, you know, those words, now is the time, get people on it, couldn't agree more. Let's build those communities when people can't be co-located together. Any questions for Rebecca? Obviously, please feel free to keep asking away in the Q&A. She'll be part of the panel afterwards. But for now, we're going to be moving over to Helena, who joins us from Selfridges. For those of you that don't know, Selfridges is actually closed at the moment due to obviously the COVID situation. And I'm sure she'll be talking a little bit about how they're using Yammer at the moment to obviously keep that engagement going. So over to you, Helena.
Hello. So yes, I'm Helena Cowan, the Yammer Community Manager for Selfridges. We rolled Yammer out 18 months ago, so we're a little way into our journey now. And so far we have onboarded 82% of our team members. So we are a retailer, so this 82% includes everyone from our sales associates, retail managers, but also our head office departments such as HR, operations, etc. And I'd like to share some insights with you around how we have maintained a vibrant Yammer network. So the first thing that we did was create a vision of how our business intended to use Yammer. So on this vision, it includes a few keywords for our team members to be inspired by, such as informing, involving, inspiring the Selfridges community. We also set up a small structure of core groups. This is part of the onboarding process. So when our team members, our new joiners join our business, as well as being sitting in the all company feed, they also sit in some core groups depending on where they work, they head office or retail, or which store do they work in. So this means that our team members hit the ground running and they're straight away connected to people in their location. And then our all company feed, we are probably a bit unusual in this because I know a lot of other businesses use their all company feed for general like goings on and team member stories. We keep our all company feed reserved for the internal communications team to share updates. So this is one organised, tidy thread for all things Selfridges and the top news stories. The second thing that we decided to do is give our team members empowerment to create Yammer groups without having to ask permission. So on the screen there, you can see some of the topics of groups that our team members are creating, communities, social interests, sharing knowledge, topical groups, etc. By giving them empowerment to create Yammer groups without having to ask permission, it gives us insight into culture, what's important to our team members. And as the Yammer community manager, that's where I can step in and support. I have the bird's eye view of the platform, so we can support team members who have similar aims with new groups, similar interests, and also making sure that we're keeping things moving forwards, nurturing the platform and making sure we don't get too much duplication. So in terms of maintaining the Yammer network, we put into place a few consistencies to keep things ticking over, keep things moving. So we have a selection of key hashtags and initiatives that are give our team members a starting point and a way to get involved. One of these hashtags is hashtag customer stories. So this is for our retail team members. It's an initiative where they can share inspiring stories about how they've elevated their customers' shopping experience. And then once per month, a member of our senior team picks their favourite story and they reshare it with a note as to why they loved it so much. The customer stories hashtag also acts as a resource for new starters as well. So if you've just joined the business and you're looking for some inspiration around what tools are out there, what other team members are doing to deliver an amazing customer experience, you can search this hashtag as well and find some inspiration. Other consistencies we've put into place are things such as weekly briefs. We have a monthly community Yam Jam debate. We keep that debate focused, so it's something fun and enjoyable for team members to come and get involved in. And then we also have a monthly summary of events called Selfridges in 60 seconds, which is owned by our internal comms team. And it's a summary of what's been going on, but also as we're a retailer and we have concessions trading in our stores as well, we have extended our Yammer onboarding to our concession managers as well as our onboard staff. So the Selfridges in 60 seconds is a great way of involving all the brand partners that we work with in the business. And also in terms of maintaining the network and the empowerment is encouraging our teams to be curious, to feel empowered, to ask questions. So a couple of my favourite examples is firstly Nick the Doorman. So he is one of our doormen that work in the Oxford Street store. He has a blog in Yammer where he tells all the fun and games of being a doorman and what he experiences day in, day out. And we have a head office department in Leicester, but we don't actually have a store there. So a team member from our Leicester head office posted a question into Yammer saying, we don't have a store here. We'd love for the Selfridges spirit to be brought to life here. Is there someone that would like to come and tell us some stories? Nick the Doorman was straight on it. He replied saying, I would love to come and tell you about the fun and games that we have on the Duke Street entrance of the Oxford Street store. And he ended up doing a full regional roadshow, visiting the Birmingham store, the Manchester store. He went and did a Q&A session with the head office team members in Leicester. And we actually are redesigning one of the entrances in our Trafford Centre store. And he is possibly going to be up for the day and will be working the door there. So again, these are just nice ways that our team members have been empowered to ask questions, to collaborate together and to reach out on Yammer, creating these amazing occasions that wouldn't have happened beforehand. And then lastly is Quiet Hour. So during one of our Yam Jam events, we had community team members talking about what initiatives they're working on in their store. And a team member from our Birmingham store had implemented a quiet hour aimed at children with special needs. It was on a Thursday morning, and there was a team member in our Oxford Street actually connected with the girl from Birmingham because she was looking to do something similar there. And that actually extended to Trafford Centre as well, who now also do a quiet hour. So some really wonderful examples of how Yammer has brought our team members together across different sites in our business. And then the final thoughts from me around maintaining a vibrant network is, firstly, a digital communication tool does need nurturing. So we put on Yammer workshops. Like I said, we're 18 months in, but we still continue to put on Yammer workshops. We have a dedicated Q&A group. We have a network of Yammer ambassadors across our business as well. A small amount of structure is required along with the empowerment to be creative. So like I mentioned before, we have our core groups, but our team members can also go and create new groups depending on if they're looking at working as one across locations or if it's simply a social interest. Team members of all levels need coaching and encouragement. And actually what we've found on the retail side is probably the more senior the manager, the more coaching and encouragement is needed. Our retail teams are really pretty happy to get stuck in, very fearless, those guys. And lastly, Yammer does not replace face-to-face communication. So that's something that's really important to us, is that it should build on it. So Yammer should be that resource of information when something has happened. So if we have an event in store, then back it up into Yammer for those that were not able to be part of it, with pictures, with commentary. And then, as Rebecca mentioned before, during the time of isolation that we have right now, the majority of our retail team members don't actually have a Selfridges email account set up. So over the past month, Yammer has become our main communication channel. As I mentioned before, our all company feed is reserved for internal comms, the internal comms team, and those guys have been working around the clock to make sure that we are pushing out as many comms as possible, keeping our team members updated. And then further to that, once we did close our stores and our team members are then in their homes, Yammer has become the most important tool to us to keep our team members connected. So it's the one tool where they can reach out en masse to their colleagues. It's been wonderful to see creative ways our team members have used Yammer to stay connected. So we have team members hosting cookery classes, we have a daily photography challenge, and I'm sure as many other businesses, our Pets of Selfridges group has never been so busy. Everyone has a sidekick helping them work at home, which is also wonderful to see. Thank you.
Excellent, Helena. Thank you so much for that. Great to hear about Nick. Would love to meet him. Maybe you can bring him into the office sometime. Sounds like an absolutely wonderful character to have at Selfridges. And yeah, that sort of engagement is always great to see. So we'll now be moving to our panel discussion. So I'd like to obviously thank all the speakers and all the lightning talks. I'll still be here to answer your questions. So I've gone through the Q&A. Thanks to everyone that's obviously submitted a question. I've got a couple to read out. So if maybe the panel could just indicate by saying who will take a question. A few of them though, I think that maybe more than one of you is going to want to jump in, particularly one around top tips. So maybe you can think about maybe one key top tip for in a second. But I'm going to start off with a question from Lawrence. In these uncertain times, Yammer has an important role to play in connecting businesses as their people are remote working or working differently from what they usually do. What advice or tips would you give to make it work as hard as possible to connect a workforce against the current backdrop?
I can take this one.
Sure.
And if anyone else wants to add in, please do. So I think in terms of making it work hard, there's definitely some community management that can be done to sort of seed some conversations and start new threads. I actually love that you had a lovely segue into that question from Helena. So, you know, thinking about things that are really relevant at the moment. So everyone's working from home in most cases. They're probably sharing the space. We're probably finding out a lot more about people than we really knew about them, working next to them every day in the office. So sharing things like, you know, maybe have, you know, a post about your pets, or meet the kids, or meet the family, or there's definitely some things you can have a bit of fun with there and get that sort of personal connection. It's what everyone is talking about, but you can sort of have a more positive slant on it and start a little bit of virality by sharing and seeding some of those conversations. I know our Yammer community at WM Reply has just sparked more conversation, obviously, with us all being far apart, and a lot of that was all really organic. So sometimes you don't actually have to work quite as hard as you think, and people will just naturally want to come together and share what they're doing and their challenges, as well as some of those positive things. So we had a fun one, which was just what's your work from home setup. So people just taking photos of their makeshift stand-up desks and all sorts, as well as pet pics and stuff like that. So definitely start to incorporate some of those conversations as well. It doesn't always have to be work related, but of course you can weave those ones in as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I would completely agree with that, Jackie, and it's been really good and interesting to see obviously all the teams' different setups. Would anyone like to add to that at all? Any other experiences?
Yeah, can I add to that? It's Becca at the co-op. So as you probably might imagine, the co-op is really going through something at the moment with the current situation. So we've got a funeral care business and also the food business. So both of them are key workers and are supporting our communities to survive in the current climate. And as a business, we have taken to Yammer to kind of reach out to those people and to clear the decks, to clear the pathways, if you like. So what we're finding is that people are using Yammer to deal with operational issues, to connect people who might be in the support centre, who might not normally actually have had direct contact with our frontline colleagues, to cut out the middle men and women and get straight to the answer of a problem. And we're seeing that the usage of Yammer in our frontline colleagues has really increased as a result. But it's also about coupling that with some of the positive messaging, so celebrating success. Because the thing is, at the moment, we're in a cycle of do, problem, fix, that kind of thing. And actually, now that that's just starting to kind of get into a bit more of a rhythm routine, we've really jumped in there and started asking people to sort of share their positives, the way that they're helping the community, which is kind of what the co-op stands for. So to be honest, there's not a day that goes by that I don't read some of the stuff on Yammer and get like a tear in my eye for some of the things that our colleagues are doing. And if it happens to me, then I'm pretty sure that our other colleagues are kind of seeing and feeling that. And it just helps keep going. And that's what I've really found from Yammer over the past sort of 3 or 4 weeks.
And that's really nice to hear, isn't it? That whole community, the whole emotive side, how people are dealing with this, because everyone is in very different situations, but we're also in the same situation. And I think that's really nice. Steve, I think that you actually had a slight comment about how you could actually use some of the functionality as well to kind of keep that community alive.
Yeah, and I love that story. Thank you, Becca, for sharing that. That's awesome to hear. I did want to mention that one of the things that we're seeing with many of our customers is the use of video, especially from a leadership standpoint, to really engage with employees in this time. Even our leaders are people too, right? And they're working from home, and so they're using a lot of the capabilities to be able to broadcast events and broadcast even from the comfort of their home, being able to do open discussions and open conversations through whether it be Teams or Yammer. But don't underestimate the power of Yammer and being able to help connect your people, and doing so using video in a very visual way.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That's fantastic. Thank you. So moving on to a bit more of a functionality style question. So Murali or Steve, this might be more for you. What's the future of the all company feed? There's been a few people asking questions about, how do I moderate it? How do I look after it? How do we stop people from accidentally posting it in there and then we have to move it around? So kind of, is there anything new on the kind of roadmap or the horizon around all company?
Yeah, let me take this, Steve. This is an area that we've learned a lot from our customers, because almost every company has used all company in a different way. This is the one automatic way where all of the employees or associates are added into a specific community. So we think it has a special place and purpose. So our likely going forward path is going to be that we will keep it, allow you to rebrand it, add your own picture, cover photos, and avatars to it, of course. You should do all in the new Yammer. But the additional thing that we're thinking of is restricting who can post into the all company. What happens is it tends to turn into a catch-all, because if someone doesn't know where to post, their immediate reaction, and the way the product was built in the past was to go to all company because that was the default. You want to change that and say, all company is a place for corporate communications, for important messages. You can reply, like, and engage with those conversations, of course, because that's the value of Yammer. But you as an individual don't get to start a new conversation there. And the product will find you another place where you can have those conversations that are more originated with you. So corporate communicators, administrators, likely are the people that we would like to focus attention on around the all company. And that's something that we are working through, thinking through how best to do that. But that's the likely path we would take. And I think that accomplishes a lot of what I've heard from our customers. By the way, I mean, thousands of customers who've given us feedback on Yammer on a whole, but specifically around all.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Murali. So a really good, really interesting question here from Scarlett. If I was on the panel, I would actually be a bit scared of this question. So good luck, guys. But she's saying that they've seen a surge in Yammer usage, obviously given the current events and due to enforced remote working. But how can they sustain and capitalize on the momentum when they return to office working? She anticipates that around 85% of teams are based in the same office, and that the remoteness will go. So how does that Yammer adoption, how does that community continue when life starts to return to normal?
I'm happy to have a go at that one.
Go on, Rebecca.
From Athens. I am not sure life will go back to normal, is one thing that I would say. I think what we're learning as part of this is it's forcing us to work remotely more. It's forcing us to rely on technology more. And I think by doing so, we're learning to trust it a bit more. I think with those people who might have been a bit reticent to kind of use Teams and Yammer and things like that are kind of having to do it. And it's no longer a choice, it's a must do. And I think that as a result, depending how long this takes, but I can't see an end in sight for the foreseeable future, I think by the end of it, we'll be in a situation where there will be more people working from home. There will be, businesses will see this as an opportunity to perhaps look at the size of their offices and things like that, and the environment, people not traveling as much, saving petrol and that kind of side of things. And actually, I can see almost like a seed change in the way the world, in fact, does business and operates. And I think that Yammer has a real place to put a part to play in that, because without it, you lose that human element and that ability to chat and converse and have a bit of a laugh with your colleagues. So I'm a bit of an evangelical towards all this kind of stuff. So of course I would say that, but honestly, I think that it might be the future.
I love that. What is the future? That's brilliant. So I think that David, you have something that you wanted to add to this from kind of the network rail perspective and what you've learned.
Yeah, very much so, David. I think one of the key learnings from this for us in Network Rail, in that we've still got colleagues working on the front line who are still doing their day-to-day. And what Yammer has been really useful for us is to kind of really make them think on their feet and suggest ideas and how they can all work in a socially distant and safe manner. And being able to then share those ideas onto Yammer with colleagues who may be based in, from Carlisle down to Kent, and see what's going on, and get really quick responses to those ideas and adoption and sign off from leaders as well. I think that's something that will carry on for us very much after this crisis is abated.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? The fact that we actually sometimes forget, I mean, me myself, that people are still out there, they're still doing a job. We obviously think about the NHS workers, the police, etc. But obviously, it's that infrastructure that has to keep going, like you say, and, keeping that engagement and community. Jackie, is there anything that you feel you could add?
Yeah, I think just adding to Rebecca and David's points, which I think are really, really important. And I have the same belief that things won't necessarily go back to normal. But I would actually put the challenge back to your teams. I would use Yammer, and I would actually be asking the question and sort of saying, hey, I'm loving this engagement that we've got going on and how connected we all feel during this time. How could we keep this going? What could we use Yammer for? To what problems could we solve using Yammer? So I find that often it's often the people that you work with that have the best and most relevant answers. So perhaps try and crowdsource that one on your network too.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that idea. Actually ask the community what they could use it for. And finally, Murali, anything to add as we kind of wrap up on this question?
Yeah, just bring it all back together to where Rebecca started. Things are unlikely to be the same. I think companies will find great talent in places that they didn't consider before. Hire people who are remote, and those people are going to work remote. And I feel that it's going to just fundamentally and seminally change the way that we work. The more important thing is, I believe, that people will gravitate towards things that they found solace with. We find solace in using Yammer because it connects us together. And I feel that visceral sort of connection is something that is very difficult to take away again. So my hope is that this will just continue. But to Jackie's point, we're going to have to put the challenge back to our community administrators and leaders to say, what can you continue to do to ensure you can create this kind of connection and this empathy that we now have, because we all face the same situation.
Absolutely, yeah, we're all in this together. We're all a community that's coming together to support one another. So now moving on slightly, this is kind of linked into the theme of the emerging situation that we all find ourselves in. There's a question from Helen about they're thinking about launching Yammer in a hurry. The exec are already bought in, but obviously they want to create that community online. What would be those top tips? And also, I guess, just to add to this slightly Dawn's question, which is, what is the suspected timeline to actually roll out Yammer? What do you need to do? And what are those top tips to make sure it's a success? And I'm sure everyone will want to add something to this. So who wants to start us off?
I can start. It's Jackie here. So I would say it's so fantastic, Helen, that you've got everyone in the exec committee brought in. That's such a big hurdle to get across for a lot of organisations. So well done. And maybe the current climate has helped with that, making these opportunities count. I would suggest now, I guess, top tips, next steps, you could take it either way. But now that you have got that support, it's really about creating your vision and objectives now. So what do you actually want to achieve? Even though this is rolling out really quickly, let's just pause for a minute and make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and you know exactly what success looks like, and how it will evolve. So I think taking a little bit of time to do that is so important. Then I would think about how you want to position this. So, when you're going about creating awareness, how are you going to do that? And you might have some added challenges at the moment, and less channels to maybe get the message out. But I would think about that creatively and how you want to position it to different audiences too, potentially. And I would also think about your governance as well. So spend a little bit of time having some thoughts around who's going to own this and look after it and really ensure that it's a success and you're achieving those objectives and working towards what you want to do. And from there, also start thinking about your structure when you launch. So, what content's going to be there when they arrive. It's great to have a lot of organic stuff that people can create, but you also want to show them how it should be best used as well. So perhaps a little bit of structured content there, a few communities with some lovely messages and things in there will help guide them and show them how it should be used as well.
Yeah, so that community coming together to help lead the community in a way. Okay, anyone else? Next top tip?
This is Steve.
Yeah, just Helen here from Selfridges. I think in terms of like completely agree with everything so far in terms of rolling it out and the audiences and making sure actually that within the network there's some activity already, so when the team members arrive to it they can hit the ground running with where to get involved. I would also want to assess the sort of like technologically abilities of those that I'm rolling out to. Depending on which department we're working with, I normally approach it in a slightly different way. Depending on if they're more so going to be using the desktop or the app, and what sort of like things they've been used to in the past. But in terms of like I mentioned before, we put on Yammer workshops, and they always roll out slightly differently depending on like who the audience is. So I think understanding like how confident the team members are with technology as well is really important.
Well, one suggestion from me is to engage WM Reply. They're experts at this. I know it sounds a little salesy here, but my belief is that you need to go to people that have done this before. And if you can get a little more budget from your leaders, because it's such a crucial and critical time to get people together, it would be great to get some folks that have done this before and know what adoption is.
The other thing I would add is I don't want to burst your bubble, but it's not ever really done. It's one of those sort of ongoing sustainable efforts, I would say. I sort of I make an analogy to exercise, right? Like if I went to the gym for 9 hours straight, am I fit after those 9 hours? Not really. But if I take consistent actions, and I do the things that Jackie and Helena mentioned, and I take those actions consistently over time, will I get to the result that I want? Yeah, eventually. I can't tell you exactly when. We're all different. All of our organizations are different. But if you take those actions consistently over time, you'll get the result that you want. It just will take some time, and none of us can say exactly when that's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's very true. You know, it's a sustained level of adoption. It's about continuous activities, engaging that community and keeping that momentum going. Anything else to add, Rebecca? David? They're both silent. Okay, so moving on. So in terms of the new Yammer, this is probably a question more for Murali and Steve. How do you actually get onto that new Yammer?
Yeah, I can take that one, Murali. So we are currently running a preview, and in fact, we had to close the preview. We were just overwhelmed with the response of people that wanted to be a part of the preview. So thank you for your interest there. We do have a subset of customers that are currently previewing it and giving us some great feedback. Currently, for those of you that did sign up to be a candidate, we are still reaching out to some customers to include more folks in the preview as we move along. As far as the general rollout, our plan, what we announced at Ignite was we said that we would roll out the new experience over the first half of this calendar year, and we've started to do that, especially through the mobile app, and like I said, we've done the preview. And our GA experience, we plan on shipping probably in the late May, June timeframe is when you can expect to start seeing it from a general availability standpoint.
But to add to that, David, one of the things that we'd like to do is to accelerate that process because of the situation we're in. And it's clear that more customers want the new Yammer and they want to roll and expand their networks. This is a great chance to use all these new features and capabilities. So we are internally thinking about how to accelerate that time frame that Steve just talked about, which was a May-June time frame. So stay tuned. If some folks are on the cusp of moving over, just drop us a line. We can see how and what we can do to sort of move to the new Yammer, especially for the ones that are newer, more nascent networks. I think there's some value in moving to the new Yammer.
Excellent, thank you for that. So a question from James all around, how are other companies handling occasions where misinformation is shared or perpetuated on Yammer? I guess any lessons that you bring to the table there, maybe Selfridges or Co-op, do you have any, or Network Rail?
Yeah, just from Selfridges there is we keep a real close eye on any external links that are shared into our Yammer network, whether it's a link to YouTube or an article. As a moderator, I'll make sure that I review anything external that's shared in. And I generally use the think approach, which is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And if it ticks those boxes, particularly if it's truthful, then it stays. And if not, it's just a kind reach out to the team member that posted it to explain why we're not able to keep that on the platform and why we're removing it.
Excellent, thank you for that. David, I think you've got something to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I think particularly to use the example of kind of the times we're living and working in now, where there's a lot of information going around on kind of external social media, and where that can be shared with all kind of good intentions onto Yammer. It's good to point people back to kind of the official, for us, internal communication resource, which would be our intranets, and onto Sharepoint as well, so people can actually cross-check with the official guidance that and information that we are abiding by as an organization, and then to just point people to that one source of truth rather than letting something kind of virally spread out there. And if it's kind of really against or the information is inaccurate, then we can just remove it, and as Helena said, explain why it's been taken down.
Excellent. And Rebecca, kind of anything finally from the co-op perspective?
Yeah, we've really seen Yammer take off as a place for people to ask questions, and that has, I'll be honest, caused some issues in that we have a really clear process that we need colleagues to follow by contacting our Operation Store Support network, and some of those questions have started to appear on Yammer. So we set out being really clear that any questions that you ask on Yammer are not ones that you should expect an answer to. It's a place to ask general questions, and we've instigated a team, a combination of that Operation Store Support team and our Trade and Response team, to basically monitor what's going on in Yammer. And we've driven those conversations and those questions into one community, so that it's really clear where to go, where to ask those questions. And then we are now working through getting people to ask them as questions, because that actually means as well that you can denote which is the best answer. And then eventually when the new functionality comes in, you'll be able to sort of close that question and that post down. So we're really excited for some of the new stuff coming through, because I think that will really help those teams to respond to colleagues.
Excellent, thank you very much for that. Given the time, it's come to me to actually wrap up, so I want to thank everyone for asking questions. It's been amazing to see the people that have joined us today. We've had people from Oslo, from Bangalore, from San Francisco, from New York, from London, from Scotland, an absolutely wonderful turnout. So thank you so much for coming here today. Obviously, please feel free to get in touch with us. Please feel free to attend the other events that are coming up. We have so much more to talk about, and it's just a shame that we've only got an hour and a half here today. Obviously, I want to thank our speakers, our panelists, for doing an amazing job, for all the work that's gone in the background in the run-up to today. It's been absolutely fantastic. Obviously, please stay safe. Please continue to use Yammer to engage with your communities. And I'm going to leave you actually with the words of Rebecca. Now is the time, and now is the chance. So thank you very much, everyone, and stay safe.